This just in. Breaking news. Idaho poker player invades the lodge.
I'm never so packed for the stack. Never lied on the rap. Got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen looking Tyson. Do that ass survive. Doing 80 to the house. Then I hit it to the sky. Change haters on a tirade. Talking to the crib in the face. Be still.
Hey, you may remember from the last time we were here that I told you I would take you to 3 new places to play poker this year. Well, this is stop number 3 on our list of trips. We're in the airport now. Going to go catch our flight to Texas. Let's go meet Jess in Austin. Looking forward to it. Let's get there. Let's play some cards. I got into Austin late on Friday night, and Jess and I both agreed that it probably wasn't the best idea to try to get to the tables and get in a session right away. Instead, we went and got some good food and just hung out for the night. The next morning, we head to the lodge. My first time playing in this room, and it lives up to the hype. Jess and I buy in. I end up sitting with him at a 1-2 game while I'm waiting for 1-3 to start, and the day gets underway with Queen Jack of Spades. A new player sits down to my right and gets involved right away. She raises to $15 in the small blind over a limper, and I call in the big blind. The limper calls as well. The flop comes down 9 of diamonds, 6 of spades, 5 of clubs. She continues for $20. It shouldn't have hit her opening range super hard unless she has one of her overpairs, and I can tell the player behind me is folding. He almost folded out of turn. So I'm going to go ahead and float this spot. Because I don't think she has this too often, because I have a backdoor spade draw, backdoor straight draw, and 2 overs, I think it's okay to float once in a while. The turn is the queen of clubs, giving us a real hand now. The small blind continues again for $40, and I'm going to call this bet as well. I'll expect that we'll see a check and a give up most rivers that don't have a king or an ace, and the river is the 9 of hearts. She quickly bets $115. The spidey senses are tingling because this doesn't seem right. That 9 should have slowed down most hands here. The overpairs is what makes the most sense. She would have slowed down holding a 9 when the queen shows up, you would expect. And it just doesn't really add up that she's firing 3 streets. The only thing I can think is that this is a 1-2 table, and people with kings or aces will sometimes do this. They'll almost like black out and just put the money in because they have kings or aces and they've waited hours to do it. Otherwise, it feels like a fold. I think if I'm playing at a 1-3 table, I'm snap calling. At a 1-2 table, where the skill level is unknown and this player just sat down next to me, man, you just don't see a triple barrel bluff very often. I tank for a while, decide to fold, and my opponent shows a king of clubs. Was it pocket kings? I don't know. She says king 10 of clubs. Oof, it's hard to imagine, but maybe. Maybe. After either getting bluffed out of our shoes or triple barreled by kings, we now look down at pocket 10s. I'm in middle position and raised to $12. I get 3 callers. If you're going to a multi-way to a flop with pocket 10s, you can't get a much better flop than 3-3 deuce. I continue for $25, and one player wants to see another card. That card is the queen of spades. There shouldn't be many hands that have called the flop that hit this queen. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead and bet again. I bet $60, and the opponent is now ready to let this one go. Next, we pick up ace-queen offsuit in the cutoff. The hijack opens to $10, and I raise it up to $35 in position. The button calls cold, and the flop is really similar to our last hand, this time deuce, deuce, 4. I bet small, knowing that a lot of hands will defend, and that we can bet almost any card on the turn profitably. The villain makes the call. The turn is the 7 of clubs. When we bet small on the flop, we were allowing him to float with a lot of hands that really don't have anything yet on a board that we shouldn't have hit necessarily, but this 7 hasn't really improved many of his hands. So either he has a hand like 8s or 9s, or we're probably going to take this one down with a bet. I go ahead and continue for $65, and this time the button's ready to let it go. I get moved to the 1-3 game and get into this fun hand pretty quickly. We have pocket queens in the cutoff, and the hijack opens to 15 in front of us. We're not going to let him play for that price while we hold such a good starting hand, so I make it $50. A player that's been a bit too active and a little sloppy makes the call from out of position in the big blind. Original raiser from the hijack calls as well, and we now have $150 in the pot on a flop of 6, 8, 10 rainbow. There's a check from the big blind and then a 1/5, 20% pot bet of $30 from the original raiser. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, right. All right, so this tiny bet is like a guy who farts and then starts shifting his eyes around the room while getting really quiet. Dead giveaway. This dude has a weak draw and is trying to set a price. Not a chance, dude. Get your farting self out of this pot. I raise it to $125. Opponent in the big blind announces a jam out of nowhere. Our farting friend folds, and now I'll let you watch as it happened from this point on. 236, man, I can't get away for 100. All right. I'm sure you're ahead. You want him up or down?
Yep. No more action.
Can we put him up and film it? I'm sure you're ahead. Let's go. Oh, all right.
Per card down.
Oh, disaster. Oh, jeez, wow. Hope you're enjoying this vlog so far. I've got plenty more hands for you. Really quick, if you are not subscribed to this channel, I would recommend that you do it now. I've got day number 2 coming out shortly. Don't want you to miss it. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get back to the action. Now, while I'm playing the 1-3 table, Doug Polk walks in, takes a look around at his excellent business, and stops by the 1-2 table where Jess is playing. Jess mentions to Doug that I came from Idaho to play the room. Doug is so cool that he says, "Hey man, where is he? I'll come say hi." Well, that was the interaction with zero planning. I wish I had had a minute to think. I would have liked to have asked Doug something more interesting, like discuss the relationship between sleeve length and business ownership. I'm wondering if Doug has become more comfortable with concealed carry of his guns now that he's living in Texas. Thanks for saying hi, Doug. You're the man. All right, back to the action. I'm in middle position, and I open to $15 with ace of diamonds, queen of clubs, with a $950 stack. I get 2 callers. The flop looks great. Ace of hearts, 8 of spades, 4 of spades. I bet 25, and I get 1 caller. The turn is the 5 of clubs. I bet $70, and the opponent raises to $190. I don't think I can fold right here necessarily. I've got top pair with a great kicker on a board where there's a flush draw. Yes, he may have hit a straight. Yes, he may have a flush draw. It's possible he has a set. The 2 pair is again possible. So I'm going to call and then assess the river. Let's see what happens. So I go ahead and make the call. The river is the 9 of spades, bringing in the flush. The action now checks through, which is interesting. And the opponent shows pocket 8s for the set. Shout out to you, Aiden. Good to meet you, man. He is the main villain in this hand, and just a guy that I've been watching for a little bit. I can tell he knows what he's doing. He's playing well. He's making good decisions. And so I know he's the kind of guy who can both make a big laydown, but also can make some really strong plays. So this is a straddled pot, 1-3-6, and Aiden is straight across. You can see his chip stack here. He's got some black chips. I'm playing 700, and we're pretty close to even on chips, even though it looks like he only has a couple $100. Remember, there's a stack of black there. So we're playing about the same stack size. He raises to 20 over a straddled pot, and the button, myself, as the big blind and the straddle all make the call. So we go 4 ways to a flop, which comes down pretty good for our hand. King of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 3 of spades. So we have a straight flush draw possible, and this is a good flop to go ahead and check and then see how everyone proceeds. So I check. It checks over to Aiden, who bets $30 into 80. This is a pretty small bet. I would expect that if you have like a ace-king here, that you're going to want to bet maybe a little larger, but that said, I like 30 if you're heads up. I don't know that I love it if you are sitting in this position with multiple opponents, but that's okay. He goes ahead and bets 30, and there's a call from the button. I go ahead and make the call as well, and the straddle's going to fold this one. So now we have a pot of about $170. The turn is the 10 of hearts. I check it over to him. He's going to bet $125. So he's betting a fairly substantial amount. This is pretty common to see this like 60%-ish pot bet. And I think this is a spot where I can take advantage. I'm going to be in a spot where I hold a lot more 10s than he does. He's going to have a lot of ace-kings here. And I think this 10 is really scary. So what I do is I check, and then I'm going to raise it up to $325. Now, when I make this raise to $325, it's basically like a no-brainer. I'm showing the leverage of the stack here, where I'm putting in $325. I've already put in 50, so I put in over half my stack, and my stack-to-pot ratio is a no-brainer jam with all my value hands here on the river. So I'm really threatening my entire stack when I raise to $325. And Aiden, I think, is the kind of player who can think about this spot, recognize the difficulty of it, and still make a fold. He thinks about this one for not too long before deciding, hey, this is too much. I don't want to get involved here. I'm going to go ahead and let this one go. Aiden, thanks for the interesting hand. Shout out to you, sir. It was fun playing with you. Now I'm going to use the stackometer to show you exactly what happens here that changes this game. We're playing 1-3-6 when a $12 straddle is introduced. So we go from 1-3 to 1-3-6 to 1-3-6-12. And then, hey, why not throw a $25 straddle on there? And you know what? 25 is good, but 50 is better. So now look what it's done to our stack. This completely changes the game, and I'm not that interested in playing short stack poker where we're doing a lot of jamming and just kind of seeing what happens. That doesn't sound extremely fun to me. I'd rather actually play the skill side of poker a bit. So it's time for me to get up and have dinner. But before I do, here's the hand where the $50 straddle got introduced. And the guy to my right, his name is Pierre. Awesome dude. Spent the night talking with him. He's the $50 straddle. Let's sweat it with him. All right, bonus hand. We're playing with Pierre. Pierre's going blind here.
I'm not gonna. Did you see that? Raise to 250.
Oh. It just got interesting.
All in.
Oh man, it gets really interesting.
I feel like I gotta look now.
Come on, it's a good start. Hey, what's going on, guys? We just got back from dinner. Went to Joe's Crab Shack. It's pretty good. Pretty tasty place that Jess recommended. And now we're just sitting in the lodge, waiting for a seat at 1-3. Jess is currently playing and taking his first shot there. He's been playing 1-2. The 1-3 here, playing a lot like 2-5, which is pretty fun. A lot of action. It's been really good. And so as soon as we get a chair, we'll get back in there. After watching Jess for a while, a seat opens up at his table, and I'm able to get back into the action. This hand is against Zane, who looks a lot like Chris Ferguson, but claims that he's older. So Chris Ferguson is actually a Zane lookalike, rather than the other way around. Zane makes it $15 in the low jack. The cutoff, the small blind, and myself all make the call. You could easily argue that this should be 3-bet pre-flop. Instead of calling, since my cards are suited, I hold a king blocker. The first raise is in later position, and there's dead money out there to steal. That is a better line in my opinion, but in this case, I did throw in the call. I think you can mix both in. The call should probably be a very low frequency play, and I think the raise is probably more appropriate. The flop is 9 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, 8 of diamonds, giving me the mother of all draws with a gut shot, a flush draw, and 2 overs. I check it over to Zane, who bets $35. The small blind calls, and I'm comfortable calling this street. I have a lot of options on the turn and a lot of equity. The turn is the queen of hearts, so now we got a double gutty to go with all the other draws in our hand. I check it over to Zane, and this time he fires again for $125. The small blind folds, and I like making a move in this spot. I just have a ton of ways to hit this board, even if this bluff doesn't work. My range will contain a lot of combinations that are big hands here, like 2 pairs, sets, and straights, and this is how I would play them up to this point. Even if I did get a call, I still have a lot of equity to improve to the best hand. I raise it up to $400, and watch how Zane responds. Snaps. He snaps. That is not good. Seems that we have stepped in it. The river's a useless 3 of clubs. We don't improve. And at this point, I know that betting here is just setting money on fire. I don't think there's any way we're getting him off of a hand that he's snap calling like that. So I wave the white flag. Zane decides that he will check behind and turns over top 2 pair for the easy winner with queen of diamonds, 9 of diamonds. Nice hand, Zane. It was great talking with you and hanging out with you at the table. Let me now bring you in on one of the PLO bomb pots that happens every dealer change. The starting hand for this one is about the same as 90+% of the PLO hands I was dealt on this trip. Just straight garbage. You'll understand why I haven't included many hands. This one actually gets fun though. Even though my hand is garbage, I flop 2 pair with an open-ender on one board and an open-ender on the other. Not amazing. I think my PLO skills are very lacking. Chances are I'm not going to win this as it is. There's plenty of cards that will improve my hands. The action checks to me. I throw in a $50 bet. Why? I don't know, because in retrospect, there's no way anyone's folding. It's PLO. I think this is a terrible bet. I don't think it's a good play. I'm a terrible PLO player. I need to work on this game, especially if I'm going to spend more time in Texas. I get 3 callers, so that accomplished nothing but bloating the pot. The turn gives me a boat on one board. The other board looks hopeless. There's 3 4s out there, and there's no way I'm going to be good. But I'm going to go ahead and make it $200 when it checks to me, because I feel fairly confident I'm going to be able to take this board down. My thought is that I'm losing the bottom board, but that's okay. I can split the rest of the chips from whichever player is going to be behind me on this board. Player behind me calls, and now I get check raised to the capped PLO bet of $500 total for the hand. So if you're not familiar, there is a $500 cap on any one PLO hand when you're playing 1-3. So you can't put more than that in. No more than one player can, anyway. With the action capped here, my thought is, okay, there's the 4. Seems to me that this guy has quads and trapped us. But I'm not trying to win that board. So I'm going to make the call and try to take down the opposite board. The player behind throws in the call, and now let's watch this thing unfold.
4's good. Oh, 9s, that is devastating. Very nice. 5s, oh man. I'm in terrible shape. I'm losing everything. What can I draw? A 6? Needing a 6. It's a 6!
After paying time rake on the night, we're down $370. So this was not a winning session for us, but the day was a ton of fun. Had a great time, and definitely enjoyed meeting all of you guys. I have day 2 coming to you quickly, so make sure you stick around. Sub if you're not a part yet so you don't miss that. And if you haven't been to this channel before and you want to check out another vlog, I've got a good one for you right here. Thanks for being here. Have a great week. I'll talk to you again soon.